welcome to the Excellent Podcast. I'm your cinematic host, STEFON WHITAKER, the head honcho of SW Films. And we have a very special guest here today. We have, I want to say, what I've been kind of saying to a couple different people who I've interviewed from my born city, Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have a legacy creator, a legacy person in Fort Wayne, someone who has been making a lot of breaking ground, I want to say, in Fort Wayne. 200,000 plus subscribers on YouTube and just gaining much more traction as the years go on. We have Kristyn Alexis here on the pod. How are you doing, Kristyn?
I'm doing really good. Hey, y'all.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I am. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to say, to take it back almost back in time, I want to say we've met in person one time before. I don't know if you remember the one time that we met, actually, but it was, I want to say it was 2018. I was still living in Indiana at the time. And there was, I forget the dude's name. I want to say his name was Maurice. I think that was his name. But there was like a cooking show thing that was happening or trying to happen. It didn't happen, but it was a cooking show situation. And I remember we went, I don't remember whose house it may have been, but it was a bunch of like an influential Black women from Fort Wayne, all in this one space together during this episode that we were supposed to be doing for the cooking show. And I think it was you, it was Leah Eber, who's a fitness instructor who I've had on the pod before. There was Michelle Chambers, I think is what her name is. Like it was her and then somebody else, but it was all y'all in a room. And that was like my first time meeting you. And I want to say that was like the first time I realized like, yo, she's a big deal out here. All right. Kristyn is a big deal out here in Fort Wayne, Indiana in general. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna let you tell it though. I'm gonna let you speak to your excellence. Just, let me know, let everyone know who you are, what you do, and just speak to your excellence.
Okay. Well, thank you again. I think, the biggest thing about me, I see myself as just a pretty regular corporate girl who happened to start a YouTube channel to share things about my life and basically try to be someone to help others when I felt like I was in the same place as maybe those who are watching my channel, may have been in the past. So for me, I was like, people helped me get to where I wanted to be. And it was hard for me to find those people. So I just wanted to be that person to others out there who look like me and who were trying to aspire to do the same things that I was able to accomplish. That ultimately was the point of my channel when I first started. I used to call myself the curly career girl. And I would do these little videos, basically just giving tips and then kind of transform into I wanted to have some fun with other things that I felt like women who were like me, look like me, may have been into. So I did some clothing stuff and I kind of dabbled in cooking and just kind of played around with all different aspects of things I am interested in to connect with my subscribers because I kind of looked at them as like friends. I still look at them as like friends, you know what I mean? So that has been my evolution on YouTube is just a mix of me sharing things to help people like me, as well as kind of getting into things that I'm interested in and sharing that with them as well, which has evolved over the years to now I do trade. So I talk a lot about trading now, and I've actually started another channel where I post trading content to hopefully inspire them to go through the same process I went through to learn how to trade and hopefully build a legacy and a financial, what's the word I want to use? Bucket of money in simple terms for their family.
Yeah.
So I think that's me in a nutshell. But I have worked in corporate for a really long time. I've been in healthcare for probably 15, maybe 20 years, medical devices, pharmaceuticals. So I do have that part of myself as well, which I've also shared with people who are going down that path and want to get an MBA or work in corporate or be a project manager, because I am also certified as a project manager as well. So I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I just kind of share everything, hoping it helps somebody, take a shortcut to get to whatever goal they may have.
Yeah, a lot of hats. A lot of that's dope. I mean, just being able to say that you are able to do all of those different things and that you have done all those different things and that you do those, on the daily, on the weekly, yearly, everything like that is super special. I want to take it back to the beginning then. though. I want to take it like, what was like childhood like for you? Are you from Fort Wayne originally, or did you?
Not. Yeah. So I
Okay.
I grew up in Michigan, so not too far,
Okay. Yeah.
little under 2 hours. And childhood, what does that look like for me? I grew up with a single mom. So my mom, she held it down. She to me was like, I see my mom, she always had that professional voice and just was just a role model, in a sense of like she had that look and that she kind of
Mhm.
reminded me of like Robin Givens or
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of those women back in the day when we came up. So that was my mom, Karen, and I have a little brother that lived with me and her. I like to think
Mhm.
that, I was the main character. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a pretty simple life at the end of the day. Definitely don't think that we were like spoiled or well off or anything like that. My mom worked really hard to take care of us. And at times I feel like the things that I aspired to have as a child or be able to do, I really wanted my kids to not have to feel as much of a desire to want to be able to do things or those little, like sometimes you'd have that fear, like, I want to do this, but I don't want to ask my mom because I know that's going to be a big deal for her. And it might be something where she has to sacrifice. And I didn't really want my kids to have to think like that or feel like that. So I have pushed myself really hard. And I think that's a lot of what has made me be the way that I am and be a little bit scrappy. I think that's kind of a good
Yeah.
word to use. Like I'm pretty scrappy. I'm somebody who, if you tell me I can't do that or no, you're not going to be able to do this,
Hmm.
I'm going to figure out how. It's just a matter of like, giving me a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, if I
Yeah.
feel like it's not possible or somebody says it's not, I'll figure out how to get in that door.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when did you get to Fort Wayne then? And then I guess was it like was Fort Wayne always a spot to go to? Like how'd you actually end up in Fort Wayne?
Yeah. So what happened was I ended up going back to school to get my MBA. I had gone into pharmaceutical sales, had done that for a number of years. Industry, it's cool. Like you make good money, don't get me wrong. But I felt like it was one of those roles where over time I'd get bored and I'd want to do more. And I aspired to learn more and have more of an impact in corporate. So I went back to school, got my MBA at Michigan State. Go green, go white.
Okay. Okay.
And I graduated there, got a job at Zimmer Biomet in Warsaw.
Hmm.
And, Warsaw, if you haven't heard, it's a little small town in Indiana, not a lot going on, not a lot of people that look like me. So I looked for a city that was nearby, and Fort Wayne seemed to be a good fit where I could still commute, get to work, but have a
Hmm.
pretty decent social life at the same time. So that's what led me to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay, yeah, and then Zimmer. I want to say, Zimmer's like one of the bigger companies that does a lot of that stuff out there. I believe, right out in
Yeah.
Warsaw. I mean, I've definitely heard of them, and I think Warsaw, and of course Fort Wayne, Indiana in general, is like huge for. I mean, anything in the medical side, especially like the medical equipment, is like a really huge thing. I want to say out in Warsaw specifically too, and Indianapolis, different places. So that's really cool. Um, so in coming to Fort Wayne, like I was born in Fort Wayne, but I grew up in Angola, Indiana, which is a little bit northeast of Fort Wayne, and Angola is definitely nothing like Fort Wayne in terms of diversity. Literally, my family was the first Black family to like live in the town of Angola. In terms of like because they had like a bunch of lakes in the county and stuff, and then there's a Fox Lake where a lot of Black people would either live at, or sometimes nowadays they have Black people will like own like little lake homes over there now.
Mhm.
But in general, back in the day, like my mom back when she was like a kid, or back when my grandfather was still around, like they would tell, nah, y'all got to go over there to Fox Lake. Y'all not gonna live in the town. But literally, my grandfather was like, no, we're gonna settle down here, and we don't give a damn, and that's kind of what it became. But Angola, no now it has a little bit of diversity because you got Trine University over there. But
Mhm.
um, in terms of like Fort Wayne has a lot more of that diversity, and it's the second biggest city in Indiana. Was it compared to like where you grew up in Michigan? Was it how was how was it like just like I guess acclimating to
Fort
the
Wayne.
social climate of Fort Wayne?
Yeah. Honestly, Fort Wayne and where I was from in Lansing, Michigan, are actually pretty similar. Fort Wayne's a
Mm,
little bit bigger.
Hmm.
So in terms of like the city size, it's just like a smidgen bigger than Lansing, but in just culture wise and things to do, very, very similar. Like honestly felt like just I was picked up and put in a city that was just like where I grew up.
Yeah.
So it was easier to adjust. I think the biggest thing is when I went to get my MBA, I kept telling myself, we're going to move to a big city. We're going to,
Yeah.
go to like Chicago or
Hmm.
LA or Houston, Atlanta.
Hmm.
And then I ended up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that part was a little tough because I had all these big ideas, you know what I mean? And it
Hmm.
didn't play out like that, but it ended up working out because it's a nice place and, cost of living is good.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of really good people here as well. So I definitely can't say it turned out bad.
Yeah, I mean, Fort Wayne is a nice city, and I think throughout the years of myself growing up, I've seen Fort Wayne grow into a much nicer place in terms of like downtown, some of the developments they got going on, some of the just, the stuff like the different activities and places to be for people out there, has definitely grown. It's almost very similar to Grand Rapids, Michigan, almost. It's kind of
Yeah.
starting to get into that kind of realm. It's starting to look a lot. And I love Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is a really cool spot. So it's good to see Fort Wayne growing like that. Um, so I guess one question before I hop into how the start of YouTube came then, kind of with like, like wanting to initially move to like some of those bigger cities like Chicago or like, LA, Atlanta. I mean, does it now at your time and everything that you've done, do you feel like you ever need to make a transition to any of those bigger places, or do you feel like comfortable for sure that you can do everything in the world while still being in Fort Wayne?
Yeah. So Fort Wayne has been cool. It's been real cool. I think even though for people trying to do social media, it can definitely be a benefit to be in a bigger city around people who are doing the same thing. I have definitely found it to be challenging to find people to collaborate with here in the city and, people who are as passionate about doing content like you really kind of have to
Mhm.
be. So that has been a struggle, but I've been lucky to connect with people online and make those relationships with others throughout the country. It's just been really
Mhm.
dope and has definitely helped me in my career as well. Having those friendships and being able to share information back and forth and collaborate and do videos and content together. But with that all being said, it also has been great because, again, cost of living is great. There's not a lot of distractions.
Mhm.
You really, if you want to get it done, you can do it from anywhere. There really is no excuse nowadays.
Mhm.
You can do it from anywhere. A lot of people have been successful here and have made it happen. But I do think in the future, we probably will end up looking at other opportunities in other cities, just
Mhm.
mainly because I'm not getting any younger. I do enjoy being here, but at the same time, there's a lot of things I'd love to be able to do socially. And
Mhm.
also just, I want to go to concerts and to
Right.
basketball
Yeah.
games, football games, and right, living here, you have to travel for all of that. Like it's not a lot
Mhm.
of big things to get into unless you get on a
Yeah.
highway or you get on a plane. So I do
Right.
think that at some point we probably will, look and see what outside of Fort Wayne is looking like. But as of right now, we're definitely content and enjoying ourselves being here.
That's good. I mean, yeah, definitely the cost of living is definitely huge for Fort Wayne. Like I'll watch different videos on YouTube from like people who are, big on like, oh, top 10 places to, move to in 2025 or whatever it may be. Or like, top 10 cheapest cost of living cities. And like Fort Wayne has actually shown up on some of these lists that I've seen. And I'm
Mhm.
like, me personally, like even when I was growing up in Angola and like my mom and my brother lived in Fort Wayne way before I was born. And it's like I personally like I think like I now at my age, I'm close to 30. I'm like literally one more year before 30. But for me, it's like I feel like nowadays I want to go to a place that is much smaller than like LA. I'm not in LA. Like, I lived in the Bay before I moved to LA and I really like the Bay a lot, but the Bay is very, very expensive. And it's kind of crazy over there sometimes. I lived like near Oakland, East Oakland, and it was always some wild shit happening over there. But uh in LA, now it's just like it's just too much. Traffic sucks. The work is here, the work is kind of moving to other places as far as in the film industry. So I don't know. I think maybe in the future, in the near future, maybe the next 3 years for me at least, I think I'm gonna try to make a move to some place that is about Fort Wayne size. suburb of, at least where I can get close to some of those major cities. But
Yeah.
I am definitely trying to get out of California at some point.
Right.
YouTube then. How did you actually get into YouTube? Now, YouTube is, of course, it's one of those things that it's the opportunity to create on YouTube is literally out there for anyone. But I would say almost 90% of people are not going to succeed on YouTube. And you are part of that 10 or 1% that's really succeeding out there, especially out in Fort Wayne. I want to just get into how you got into it and just what kind of things did you have to learn to really succeed in that space?
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny with YouTube when I was watching it, and I used to be more of a consumer of YouTube, meaning like I was watching and just taking in a lot of the information that was on there. I saw people who were doing it and consistently just admired what they were doing and be like, man, that's really dope, and I didn't really have any hobbies. So at the point when I was deciding to start YouTube, I'm like, this might actually be kind of a cool thing to put my energy into. And the more I researched it and the more I looked at YouTube as something that, might be a good fit for me, the more I realized it didn't really matter what you look like or what you were into from a hobby perspective. Like if you were really passionate about it and you were consistent and you showed up, you could be successful on YouTube.
Mhm.
And I think in comparison to other platforms on social media platforms, YouTube is the one where if you put the time in and you're consistent and you do your research and you are, very good at trying to critique yourself and do consistently better, you can be successful. Anybody can be
Mhm.
successful on YouTube. I mean, if PewDiePie is the number one largest YouTuber, PewDiePie is like the most randomest dude ever.
Yeah.
If he can be the biggest YouTuber, and this is honestly what I used to tell myself, if
Yeah.
PewDiePie can have that many subscribers, I could find 200, 100,000 people that's going to like me.
Yeah. No,
So
for
I
sure.
just showed up and I would do content every single week. I did content 3 times a week,
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, and Friday for years, every single week. I showed up whether or not
Mhm.
anybody watched, and I did content. I did content for a whole year. Nobody watched. I would post on my Facebook. Nobody cared. And then one day, an old video I had that I had put up a year earlier went viral. And then I
Mhm.
got my first 10,000 subscribers. And then I'm like, okay, so I do a spinoff because I'm like, well, if they like that video, they're going to need something else to
Mhm.
watch that YouTube will recommend to get them to watch some more. So I did a
Yeah.
spinoff and that one went viral. So I said, okay, well, I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what I can do. So then I just started making videos like the videos that went viral. And
Mhm.
it's like rinse repeat. You know what I mean? Like YouTube really isn't that uh creative in terms of how the snowball can work. It's
Mhm.
really just a matter of like showing up, being consistent. If you feed the algorithm will feed you. Like it will pat your back right back if you're consistent and you show. And most of the platforms now are like that too.
Mhm.
Instagram is very similar. Threads is just like that. I mean, if you look at, I'm going to diverge for just a second, but like
Mhm.
if you look at Threads pays their users. So people who have consistently shown up, consistently posted, start to build a following, they will incentivize you to continue to post. So the
Mhm.
more you post, the more money you make. The more you post, the more people who see the post, the more money they'll pay you. And every month they continue to just reinforce that because they want you to keep showing up. The more you show up, the more your followers show up, the more they're getting new followers for the
Mhm.
platform. It's kind of like a mutual reciprocation. And YouTube was exactly the same way when I was back doing it. And I think I really benefited from the fact that at the time, there weren't a lot of people on YouTube who were like me. I mean, even
Mhm.
still, like there's not a lot of corporate African American women on YouTube. There are more women on YouTube now in my age group who do look like me, most definitely, but there's still not a lot, and there's not a
Yeah.
lot that are into the things that I'm into. So I just took advantage of that and just knew, if I kept making that type of content, they were going to find me. And I would also think about, you remember that movie with where he would say, if you build it, they will come.
Oh yeah.
About the
Um,
baseball field, if you build it,
yeah.
they will come. If you build it, they will come. I used to
Yeah.
tell myself, if I just do the videos, they will find me. They're gonna find me. My
Hmm.
subscribers will find me. And over
Yeah.
time, they did. And then I'm telling you, YouTube has probably been one of the most rewarding experiences because there were a lot of times where I'm telling you, I put content out, would nobody show up, would nobody watch, didn't
Hmm.
nobody care,
Yeah.
but you have to continue to push through when you have that happen, because those were the times where I wanted to give up. Like I'm literally faced with two options: keep going or give up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just was like, well, if I give up, I know I'm never going to reach my goal. And it was fun.
Yeah.
So, hey, keep going.
Exactly.
And it's been like that for everything,
Yeah.
every single thing in my life. If I could just hang my hat on something, it's just continuing to push in even when it feels impossible.
Hmm.
And you can definitely make it happen. If it can happen for me, it can happen for anybody else just like me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, first of all, that's awesome. That's beautiful. I want to say too, then, like, because YouTube is, I think in general, when people create YouTube, like at least when back in the day, I think nowadays if people are creating YouTube pages, I feel like they are maybe coming in with the intention of like they want to be a real creator that can maybe make some impact on the platform. But back in the day when YouTube came out, I feel like people who created it or were on there creating, it was more like, okay, I'm just gonna hop on here maybe as like it's a hobby. I show off some of my hobbies, like back in the day, I used to watch like videos of like like people playing airsoft, like random shit like that.
Yep.
Just like people would film all types of stuff on there. But when you first hopped on and you got on it, was that the intention that you wanted to actually create and incentivize the stuff that you were creating? Like, did you know at that point like that you could, be incentive, get money from that basically? Like, did you know, or was it just more of like, I just want to kind of just try something new?
Yeah, I think for me at the time, honestly, the biggest thing I wanted was the plaque. I wanted the
Yeah.
100,000 subscriber plaque.
Yeah.
And like worked in corporate for a while, and I worked really hard to get to where I am. So I've made good money in corporate. So it wasn't really about the money for me. Like, even though I know you can make money, you can get sponsorships and all those things, I definitely have done things in a way where if I wanted to make more, I would have did things differently. And if
Hmm.
I would have wanted to make more off of sponsorships, I would have, done it differently as well.
Hmm.
Even to this day, like my inbox is full of sponsorship requests, and I can't think of the last time I've done one. It
Hmm.
just, if it doesn't fit and it doesn't feel like something that I would enjoy doing, I just don't do it. So
Hmm.
I think for me, it's been more of like, I do really care about wanting to make a positive impact and be a little bit different. And I think that for me, the things that I am passionate about have kind of almost like at this point brought me away from YouTube, because that used to
Hmm.
be a big passion of mine. But
Yeah.
I would say for me, the money part was cool and it's been nice to get those additional benefits. But most of the money I've made on YouTube, I put right back into my channel, whether it be, computer or lighting, or like I had my husband put up this new monitor. I've got a monitor sitting right here on a stand. So
Yeah.
when I record, I can see myself on this nice,
Yeah.
huge monitor. Like I just do stuff like
Hmm.
that to make it easier for me to create content. So that's what I've invested my money in, is things that help the channel be better, look better. So I've constantly just taken all the money I've made and just literally put it right back into the channel. I don't think I've taken anything from my YouTube channel and taken it from myself and went crazy and did anything wild. So that's
Yeah.
just me. I'm a little different from that
Hmm.
perspective, but it can be really lucrative. I have friends who live off YouTube and that's all they do. And they're
Yeah.
living really well, very good, comfortable lives,
Yeah.
making way more than I make in my real job. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
definitely, if you want to do that, it's for sure there. But for me, it was the plaque. I wanted the plaque. Actually, my plaque is right here on the wall. I
Yeah.
can see it right here at my desk, and I wanted that plaque. That was my goal. And I used to tease, like, dang, when I get the plaque, what I'm gonna do? Like, am I gonna stop? Like, I
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
that to be able to solidify, like, you did it. You really can
Hmm.
do what you put your mind to, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, you got 100,000 more after that. So I mean, it
Yeah.
just it kept growing, it kept growing. Was there other create like when you were creating at the time, was there anybody on the platform that you were watching that maybe kind of inspired you a little bit into like maybe shaping your page the way it is now or the way it was at the time? Like any people that's, kind of popular out there already or any local creators at
Yeah.
all?
Yeah. So I would say back when I first got rolling, someone who really inspired me was Alyssa Forever. She was also a Fort Wayne native, and Alyssa ended up moving to LA. She moved to LA a
Okay.
couple years, I think, after I had got on YouTube. So she was a huge inspiration for me because her content was always very, very high
Hmm.
quality. Like she came
Hmm.
correct. So I've just always told myself when I make content, I want my content to be of good quality, no
Hmm.
excuses, which is why as I continue to progress, I would literally take everything I made and I would get new cameras, new lenses, new lighting, new microphone. I would just anything I could get. I'm like, let me try this, let me do that, let me pay for somebody to make an intro. If I'm doing Vlogmas, I'm having somebody make me a fire intro because I want
Yeah.
to wow people. So she was a
Hmm.
huge inspiration for me. There was a guy named Eric Conover who used to do vlogs from New
I
York.
just watched him actually last night.
Yeah,
He does like
yeah,
real
I
estate
love.
stuff now too, a little bit,
Yep.
I think. Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Oh, Eric was a huge inspiration because he used to do daily vlogs. He lived in New
yeah.
York at the time, and he would do these daily vlogs from New York, and his quality was impeccable. Like
Hmm.
he was so creative and he would tell a story, and I just was like, man, I want to be like that, you know?
Hmm.
So people like that. And then there's one more, if I could throw one more out there. Her name
Hmm.
is Claire Marshall. Claire is a female vlogger. She is just amazing. And she's probably another person who it never seemed like for Claire it was about the money.
Hmm.
Claire just makes content because she has a passion for creativity and telling stories. She's
Hmm.
a great storyteller. And she's somebody else who I would watch her content and I'd just be so inspired, like, oh my gosh, if I could tell a story like Claire, I'd feel like, I was doing a really good job at this. So those
Yeah,
were people who
yeah.
really inspired me and I always gravitate to people who on YouTube are really good storytellers and can tell a story, even in the shortest videos. I love creators like that. So those three are three that stick out in my mind that I remember when I first started being like, I want to be like them. And
Hmm.
there have been others along the years as I've learned and transitioned
Yeah.
and who have inspired different aspects of things that I've done, but those three most definitely.
Yeah, no, super huge. I mean, literally like YouTube, it's definitely the storytelling aspects is what of course attracts me as a filmmaker, as a director and everything. Like just being able to, especially from YouTube, because YouTube nowadays it's kind of shifted, and just social media in general almost, is that you almost have people on there who are like, I'm not gonna say filmmakers in general, but like you have people that will come with that type of creativity and that type of style, and like who strictly stay on that platform. Like there's like watching Eric Conover's video. I watched a video, some real estate video he was doing about an $80 million home in Colorado or something, and just the shots that he was getting, just everything that was in there. I'm like, damn, this is something that you would see in some movies. You know what I mean? And then you even have like just like you start to see some of that content, like real estate, showcases and stuff like that, or like just strictly just day in the life vlogging. You see these different kind of methods and approaches to their production side of it that changes the game now. You know what I mean? And I think it ups the bar to where like, okay, we want everything to be cinematic, even on this particular kind of platform and space. And that's really cool. For you, what was like some of the obstacles that you feel like you truly faced in your time in YouTube? And I want to say from an external standpoint and from an internal standpoint, like what were some of those obstacles you feel like you had to face in just getting to a space of success, but also maintaining the success past the 100,000 subscribers?
Yeah. I honestly think something for me that was probably my biggest obstacle, and it may have been the point where I started to like fall back from YouTube, is when I started to grow. And then with that growth comes a lot of criticism. And
Hmm.
I remember at one point I found this page. There was a page that was like dedicated to talking about me. And every
Really?
time I would post, they would get on there and they would criticize everything I did, criticize me, what I look like. I remember
Yeah,
reading one post today talking about my eyes was far apart. Oh shit, her eyes is far apart in her head. And just
that's
talking
crazy.
about people I care about who I brought on the channel, my family
Hmm.
members, and saying mean things. And that
Hmm.
for me was a moment where I was like, is this really something
Yeah.
that I want to do?
Hmm.
Because if you're out here, they're gonna talk.
Hmm.
And, it's one of those things where like you hear people who have gotten success and they talk about that very thing. And what do people say in response? Well, when you out there, that's that comes with it. Da, da, da. So,
Hmm.
and it's like, it's easy to say that, but when it's you, it feels a lot different because
It
that's
feels a
something you
lot different.
really love. Like if you're doing it, you're spending that much time, you got to care about it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because you're not going to put in that much time editing, coming up with the ideas, going places to be creative for your followers, asking people to come on the channel and share and be open and like just everything you do to make the content. Like you're not going to do all that unless you really care. And for
Hmm.
people to just be they were really mean. Like that was a point for me where I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? And I definitely think at that point it started to bother me a lot. And I
Hmm.
fell back from YouTube. And I honestly don't think since then I've ever really gone as hard on YouTube as I did before that point. That was
Yeah.
tough for me. And it definitely made me decide like, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to grow? Do I want to try to increase my income and do this,
Hmm.
solely as 100% as my main source of income? And I decided, no, I don't think so, because I don't like this. I don't like how it made me feel. And
Hmm.
it was something that it was difficult for me to ignore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely but I had to also tell myself quit looking because there was a point where I would look. I'd be like, oh well, let me go
Hmm.
look. And then I think I mentioned it on the channel and they went crazy. They said, oh, she's
Yeah.
us, y'all. Da, da, da. So they was going even
Wow.
harder
Yeah.
because they
That's
knew it
crazy.
bothered me. You know what I mean? So it was tough.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, the fact that I mean, that's not like super surprising because you see that a lot in a lot of other like, celebrities. There's pages dedicated to just shitting on them or dedicated to rising them up or, talking about them all the time. That's crazy though that someone made a page just to belittle you in the stuff that you're putting out. Like that, see, that kind of like, it's crazy because, everybody gets to that point in their lifetime of a success in like maybe a public way to where people will definitely scrutinize you a little bit. I know I've definitely had that happen to me too. People, see me post, some of the different things that the people I meet on set or just whatever in my success. And I try to tune that out as much as possible. But yeah, sometimes it is hard to ignore that, and I think it makes you look at all criticism as kind of almost negative in a way. Like you, especially as you start to really feed into what those negative things that those people were saying, it can make you look at just any type of criticism. It's just like, damn, am I doing something wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with me? But that's kind of insane that someone just made a damn page. Are they like still around? Like why? Like
I
who? Do
don't
you
know.
know who they
I haven't
are? Like that's
I took
crazy.
myself to go look again, but it's like a website where you could go and you create like a page for that content creator, and then it basically was like a blog where they could just come and continue that conversation. So
Man.
you would see like hundreds of people and they were like regulars where they would literally be like, y'all see what she did today, or y'all see what she had on, or how she did her hair,
Yeah.
or I remember one time I did this video. It was like a intro for my Christmas Vlogmas. So I
Hmm.
had worked on this intro, and the timing of the video being recorded, we had set it up for one time and it didn't work out, so we had to set it up for
Hmm.
another time. So I remember, I'll never forget, I wasn't able to get my nails filled. So my nails
Hmm.
had like grown out a little bit. So you had
Yeah.
the little crack between the fill. They was
Yeah.
getting on my nails. just
Oh
everything. I
man.
was just like, oh my gosh, I can't win for losing with y'all. Like,
Yeah.
it just started to make me feel like they hate me, like they just don't
Yeah.
like me. And I would always be like, man, I'm doing good stuff. I'm trying to be helpful.
Hmm.
And this is the energy I'm getting. And that energy became so loud to me that it was louder
Hmm.
than the support. And it just
Yeah.
kind of ran me off.
It's crazy. I mean, that kind of reminds me of at this current moment. It kind of reminds me of, and I'm sure you maybe have heard about it like on like Twitter or X now, but a lot of people talking about that. What's her name? Cooking with Kaya. There's like a
Oh
whole lot
yeah,
of
I heard that.
there's like a whole lot of, and I don't know anything about this girl. I just kind of like seen it from actually looking at all the discourse because I don't really care about any of them sort of trends that come up that people are talking about on social media like that. But that one had popped up a lot, and then it's just people kind of hating on that girl for what she's doing, and I don't know. I feel like unfortunately, whoever probably started that blog is probably someone who is just super stank because they're seeing your success and they probably don't feel pretty or who fucking knows, and they just wanted to hate on you. You know what I mean? So I think at that point it's like that person got a lot of they got their own issues to deal with, and they ain't gonna deal with them issues until they just stop trying to belittle other folks like that in that type of way. So
Oh, man.
that's crazy. What do you believe was your biggest success from YouTube, from that first channel that you had? What do you think was, or what not? What do you think? What was the first big success for you?
Yeah. So I think I'd have to do two parts, right? So I think the first big success for me was, man, there's been so many. Hold on, this is gonna be hard.
Talk your shit. Come on, yeah.
But so I think one was at one point before I hit my goal of getting the plaque, YouTube selected me to be creator on the rise. And that to me
Oh,
was huge because out of all the YouTubers
yeah.
online, they saw me on that channel and picked me to be their creator on the rise for that period of time. So that was huge.
Mhm.
It was very exciting. And YouTube has kind of continued to keep their eye on me throughout my career. I've been
Mhm.
invited to events and stuff like that. And that's been really dope. I think just even
Yeah.
seeing that they noticed me was pretty amazing. I would definitely also say the plaque, but I think the one thing that I would say is my biggest success is throughout my career, I have had a number of people, mainly women who look like me, who have said because of me, they have been able to either get their MBA, get
Mhm.
jobs that are, higher level, higher paying jobs that they never would have considered. And they felt like that I was the direct reason that motivated them to feel like they could do that. And for them to
Mhm.
come back and tell me that, anytime I hear that, it always just makes me feel like it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me a number of times throughout my career. I always save those messages. So I have them saved, those
Mhm.
messages, emails, and they've come in the, way of email, DMs,
Mhm.
messages on my page, just telling me like, hey, by the way, I just want you to know you're the reason I got my MBA or I got certified as a project manager or I decided to try for that corporate job and guess what? I got it or I went
Mhm.
into med device because of you. So those messages, I feel like for me, that's my biggest success that I've had on YouTube, hands
That's
down.
great. That's great. And see, when you get those positive affirmations and those positive comments like that, I mean, those should always stick out larger and louder than like the negative. Even though the negative, unfortunately, sometimes it becomes almost loud because of just you never want to face that kind of criticism or get that kind of just undue hate. But having those positive comments is super huge, and especially when people are saying like, "Yo, you changed my life." You changed my perspective in this way, like that's much more meaningful than any of the other stuff, and that's huge.
Yeah.
One question I didn't really get to is like just the type of content that you're creating. Now, I've watched your channel a couple different times. I know I've seen like the vlogs and stuff like that. I think I watched one of the most recent ones where it's like you and your husband going to the range and stuff like that. I've seen that video. Like what was first of all, what was the very first video that you put up? Do you remember like what was it that you actually the first video or the first few? What were those videos like compared to what you're doing now?
They're embarrassing. But they were actually very good intentions. So I think my first videos were me doing sit down videos, talking about my career and like how they were like how-to videos. So
Mhm.
how do you get to an MBA program? How do you do this? Like just little things that I felt like, okay, when I had to figure this out, I had to do a lot of research. So let me do a video that just puts everything I learned in this little 10-minute, 5-minute video to help other people. So those were like my first videos. And then I had
Mhm.
a couple blogs mixed in there
Mhm.
and just like, random things, but it was all focused on me being a curly career girl because that was what I
Mhm.
called myself at the time. So that
Yeah.
and they're very, in terms of quality, they're grainy and like not the best, but
Yeah.
I did what I could do, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah. And
you know,
leveled up as
yeah.
time went on. Yeah, nah, for sure. I mean, like, because like for me, right? It's funny. As a filmmaker, I don't necessarily, uh, I don't. YouTube is like my main platform if I want to show off videos. But of course, now you have a lot of these social media platforms that are being more video centric. You got Instagram who kind of really turned themselves almost into like a video platform in a way. Of course, still doing photos, but like heavily on videos and the reels now. And then TikTok is solely like a vertical video platform. Snapchat kind of played that game too, and still does a little bit. Facebook now, Twitter even or X, is getting into that more. Um, it's just interesting where a lot of traffic goes to. Like, have you basically built yourself out of like some of your content that you'd put out, especially now into trading, which we're going to get into in a second. But like, do you kind of push that over into other platforms now, or is YouTube still like your main platform that you promote to?
Yeah. So YouTube has basically been my main platform. Instagram is probably my second, and then I would say Threads. But
Mhm.
Threads has been competing real heavy for me with
Yeah,
Instagram. So I'm honestly right now I'm really, really liking Threads, and Threads is the one paying me. So it's kind of going
yeah,
YouTube, Threads, Instagram, just
yeah.
because it's so fulfilling to post on Threads. Like I feel like
Mhm.
it's like a conversation and they have a really great algorithm that connects you with people that are like you and think like you.
Yeah,
So you don't really end up a lot in places like on X where you'd be talking and you like all of a sudden somebody show like a Nazi show up and you like, where you come from? Like Threads isn't like
right.
that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I will definitely say like YouTube is for sure still my main love. Instagram is right there, and Threads is probably close behind. And then I never really got into TikTok, and now that I see they're trying
yeah,
to get rid of it, looks like it's really about to happen. I'm like, dang, well, I guess I'm glad I wasn't like didn't
yeah.
shift all the way over there because I'd be sick, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, right now, I this year, out of kind of just being, on this social media hiatus, I did create a TikTok maybe like in, I don't know, September, and I posted pretty consistent on it. And I kind of I wasn't in TikTok just because of like I looked at it as this, kind of like, oh, this is a little child's social media type thing. I kind of just wasn't interested in it, seeing all the like dance. I didn't, I wasn't gonna, create that kind of content. But I started like reading into like, Gary V, some of his, different, philosophies about TikTok and just how, and also just actually, as a creator, as an entrepreneur myself, like I try to pay attention as much as possible as some of just how some of these social media platforms, move and promote how businesses promote on them, and TikTok is becoming, has became really like the number one platform in terms of, just businesses and just how to almost gain a bunch of traction in a very short time. I think it's weird. I don't know if TikTok is gonna go away or not. Yeah, it definitely seems like it might be real, and I kind of hope it isn't because I mean, one, I just created my platform on there, so it's like I would like to, to keep creating on there. So who knows if somebody will end up buying it or supposedly Trump says he wants to, disqualify that ban. I don't. Who knows? It's hard to say what's going to happen in the damn future, especially when you got Trump in office. So I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's yeah, TikTok I feel like still is pretty important, but Threads. It's interesting that you talk about Threads because I have a Threads account, but I feel like I've only been on there. I mean, everybody was on it when it first launched. Like when Instagram launched it, and then kind of Instagram kind of forced people to get Threads too, or to keep Threads, to keep their Instagram page, which I thought was kind of a weird decision, but. Um, I haven't really been on there, and I didn't realize that Threads is paying people now. I mean, that kind of, might want to, that might push me to, check it out more. But it's, it's tough to acclimate to some of those new channels, so like congrats to you for just being able to use, utilize Threads like that. I mean, when it came to that, like, do you just like, how did you get into that mode of like being able to find a way to incentivize on there? Because of course, I didn't know, and I'm sure there's probably other people that didn't know because they just, hopped off of Threads. Like, how did you kind of figure that all out?
Yeah. I think it started where like I started my threads and then I was like, oh, let me see how this is going. And at the same time, I was starting to grow dissatisfied with X. So I'm like, And if it was started with the moment too where every time I would log on X, Elon was at the top. Like I'm like,
At the
why do I
top,
see his
crazy.
posts every time I log on this app? And it started to
Yeah,
become
yeah.
annoying. So I was just like, okay, let me go check Threads out and I said I was going to give it a chance. So I tried it for like a week and would post
Hmm.
for a week. And then I saw people saying that they were making money from posting. So
Hmm.
I'm like, how y'all getting paid? Hold on, what
Right.
you get paid just to post? And they like, yeah, that's it. So once I started to research it, I realized, okay, well, if you post consistently, they'll
Hmm.
invite you to the Threads Creator Program. So
Hmm.
I use ChatGPT and I started talking to ChatGPT saying, okay, what do I need to do from your opinion to be able to qualify for the program? And what would you do? What would you tell me to do if you were my content manager to be able
Hmm.
to get there? So Threads told me to post not Threads. ChatGPT told me to
Yeah.
post 3 times a day on Threads. So I said, okay. So I actually set an
Mm.
alert in my phone. It's a reminder. So at 8 in the morning, noon, and at the end of the day at 5 o'clock, I get a reminder on my phone to post on Threads. And I literally I started posting 3 times a day. And from there, I grew my page from like 1,000 to right now, I think I'm at 11,000 followers. And
Yeah.
literally all I do is I post at least 3 times a day. But I make sure to always post something that I'm really interested in. I try
Hmm.
to add value. And then I also discovered that on Threads, if you post and comment underneath other posts that are
Hmm.
already having success, that it counts.
Mm.
So part of my strategy has been just talking under posts that are already doing well and just being witty so that
Yeah.
people see my comment and engage with my comment, which helps. And then I also do my own organic posts on my own, just based on things that I'm passionate about. Normally, it's the market. I
Mm.
probably talk about the market on my own page like 85 to 90%. And then there's a little bit of me being silly. And then there's probably
Hmm.
like random thoughts.
Yeah.
But just doing that consistent, I've been able to pay my car payment for the last
Damn.
maybe 4 or 5 months just using Threads money. Like
Yeah.
it's not like it's a ton of money, but it's enough to pay my
Yeah.
car payment. So hey, they can
Which is
keep paying
good.
for the bins. I'm all with it.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and it makes a lot of sense too because on X at least now I see like sometimes I'll be in different like I'll see different posts on like a lot of times it's been like maybe some music pages or something like that. People talking about like of course the whole Kendrick and Drake beef and stuff like that or whatever's happening in music. And I'll sometimes see these profiles who I usually always see have a comment or create a topic or a conversation about something music related, and they're like almost in every different like post that I see about just anything, and I'm just like, what in the world? So I wonder if that plays a part maybe on other platforms too. I assume maybe so if you're kind of joining in on other conversations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that intrigues me. You just gave a lot of good game right there because Threads, like I said, Threads. I have just in general. I have not been on. Mainly, it's always been like Facebook, Instagram, and as far as X, like X is hella annoying. But there's something that just keeps me on X. I don't know why, and I don't really post. I don't really post anything. I think the thing that keeps me on there is that there's just a lot of really funny shit that I see on X, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And sometimes sometimes it's hard to get away from that. But then you got like Blue Sky, which is out, a newer platform, which is basically just like, X. But Blue Sky to me, I don't know if you have a Blue Sky account, but it seems a little bit more subdued at the moment. It's a little bit more subtle. It's nothing, I don't think there's a whole lot. at least from the times I've been on there, hasn't been anything that's been like super nothing that's been caught my eye, nothing that really keeps my attention on Blue Sky. You know what I mean? So, I mean, have you been on that social platform yet?
I haven't. I see a lot of people talk about it, that they like it and that it's a
Yeah.
nice like breath of fresh air, but I haven't tried Blue Sky. I think because I've like have really found to like Threads a lot, and I definitely like their algorithm, because what I've noticed is if you feel like you're getting too much of one topic on Threads,
Hmm.
just talk about something else and engage in other topics, and then you'll see that topic. So it's
Yeah.
kind of dope from that perspective of like you can manage your own algorithm by literally just actively engaging with other things, and then that thing will come in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I like
You
it.
know, and having almost more than one of these different, because Blue Sky and Threads and X, they almost have the same, just structure almost in the way that
Mhm.
the way that they work, the way that creators will create on them. So, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's also another thing that like really is like for me, my main platforms that I would utilize for, especially for my company, and myself, like, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's Vimeo too, which is another video platform, which does not really compete at all with YouTube, at least the way that I'm sure that they want to. But it's definitely a great platform for, I guess I'll say, for filmmakers, people who are really, wanting to put their work on there and stuff like that. But and what else? There was another one. Oh, LinkedIn. I've been trying to get a little bit more into with how creators are creating on LinkedIn and TikTok. So, but I mean, there's just so many social media platforms. I mean, but they're all like different. Like you don't really see another platform per se like Instagram. I'm sure there is a couple platforms that are trying to, kind of copy that architect, but Instagram is what it is. Facebook, you don't really see a lot of things competing with Facebook anymore. Facebook, of course, is a very old platform. A lot of people, don't create on there necessarily anymore, like how it kind of used to be. But Facebook is one of those things. It's grandfathered in. It's a real legacy type social media, platform that I think everybody still utilizes in some way. Um, so I want to talk about trading because that's something that you talked about. I've seen you talk about that a lot on Facebook. And I think there's another platform I think I follow you on, maybe Instagram or something, but I've seen you talk about trading a lot. I do not know anything about trading. I haven't really looked into it. I have a few friends that have kind of do it a little bit, I believe, or have gotten into it. But tell me, how did you get into that? And briefly also talk about just like, how you decided to make that into another YouTube page for yourself.
Yeah. So with trading, the reason and like I guess my motivation for getting in was back in 2008, 2009, the market made a really considerable dip,
Mhm.
and a lot of people made good money off of that dip. And I watched people make that money and talk about it. And I told myself, if we ever have another opportunity like that, I have to get in and I have to learn. So when we had the COVID dip, I'm like, okay, I gotta just do it. I gotta get off the
Mhm.
pot. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I went ahead and I just started like learning. So I got on YouTube and would watch videos, and I did enough to be dangerous, I guess maybe is a good way to put it. But at the time I thought I knew some things, and you always think as you learn a little bit in the market that you've learned enough, right? So I'm putting money in, I'm investing, doing well, but the market is growing like straight up. It's going
Mhm.
straight up, right? When the market's going straight up, it's easy to make money, and everybody thinks they have it figured out. Like they probably do right now. The market's doing the
Mhm.
same exact thing right now. So for me, I got in there, I started to learn, and then the market turned and it went
Mhm.
down, and it got a little harder to trade and
Yeah.
figure out how to do that thing. And I
Mhm.
lost some money, and then I lost a
Mhm.
lot of money. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, girl, you got to learn this a little bit better. You know what I mean? You got to dig in. So I just started
Mhm.
to seek out people that were doing trade, who were trading and who were successful. I took a couple courses. Those courses really didn't help me. So I had to
Mhm.
keep looking, keep digging. And then I finally found the methodology that I trade with now, from ICT. So the gentleman, his name is Michael Huddleston. His channel on YouTube is ICT Inner Circle Trader. Dived into his content, learned it, I feel very good about it at this point. I'm really glad I did it, but that was my motivation. Like I really wanted to learn. I've always been intimidated by the stock market, just didn't understand how it works. And I always felt like it was so risky and that made it scary for me. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think even just, belonging to the group that I belong to as an African American, we have a lot of fear in the market. And I definitely assume it comes back from like Black Wall Street and what happened to Black Wall Street and what they have done to our Wall Street. Not only that, but our banking system. We used to do things to try to build up our community, and that has
Mm-hmm.
always been faced with a lot of just negativity from those in the masses. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it brought me a lot of fear. I know it definitely has probably impacted others in my community, but I wanted to overcome that because I'm one of those firm believers that if somebody else can do something and be successful with it, there's no reason why I cannot. I just have to figure out how to do that like they're doing it to be successful. So just like YouTube, I started to learn and master this craft. And then after learning what I've learned from ICT, realizing like it's really repeatable. You can do this
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again and make money and be profitable. And the more I learned and the more I've found success with it and profitability with it, the more I've wanted to tell others so that they're not scared about it either. But I want them to learn it, but learn it the right way,
Right.
and to do it right so that they can make money. Because the one thing that I think is really amazing about the market is that you can build wealth out of nothing, ultimately. I mean, you got to have something to start,
Mm-hmm.
but you can make money and you can do a lot with a little, in the market if you know what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. And Michael always says, like, there are things he's taught us, and he'll say, I've literally just handed you the PIN number to the ATM.
Mm-hmm.
And I wholeheartedly believe that that's exactly what he did, with what
Yeah.
he's taught. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. It's really dope. And when you see it perform every single day to the level of precision that it does, and you know that if you are disciplined and you do exactly what you see on that chart, you can make really good money. It'll keep bringing you back. So that's kind of what
Yeah.
motivated me to do it and what got me to where I am right now.
That's cool. I mean, and I imagine too, I feel like it's a very it's a tough game, like you said. There's moments where market's going up, and then there's moments where something happens. And I imagine it's like you almost have to kind of pay attention to maybe some of the just real life climate of things. Like COVID, obviously, was a great time for I feel like a lot of people, in different facets of trading, and then I think maybe some of the like the Bitcoin, some of that stuff kind of maybe flourished or dropped in that time, but like. I want to say even like maybe this election probably was like a big thing to pay attention to see how the market really changes up with that. I mean, I would assume, I mean, you let me know. I definitely don't know shit about trading, but I assume that's like something that you would have to pay attention to, right? Like some of those real
Yeah.
life situations.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because, like, with what I've learned, Michael has taught us that the algorithm or the stock market is run on an algorithm, and that algorithm is basically it's doing what it is programmed to do to move money through the market to take it to targets. And
Hmm.
he teaches us that the algorithm leverages news for getting to those targets. So the more and more I learned about it, the more fascinated I've become by it because you can actually see these moves on the chart because it leaves signatures behind. And those signatures are communicating direction, bias,
Hmm.
intention for the next move. Like it's pretty amazing. So to your point, yeah, you definitely want to be tapped in and understand. And I think because of like going through the process of learning it, it's helped me to understand topics like inflation and what really drives inflation and how you really bring inflation down and who really is in control of inflation.
Hmm.
Just as an example, a lot of people think it's the president, but when we really get down to
Hmm.
the facts, Jerome Powell has more control over inflation than the president. There are things the
Hmm.
presidents can do that impact it indirectly, most definitely,
Hmm.
but at the same time, you have someone who is literally changing interest rates that have a direct impact, who is literally pumping money into the market, into the economy through quantitative easing And that is
Mhm.
Jerome Powell, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's kind of cool to like learn these things to be able to better understand like why things happen, but also to understand how it's going to impact the stock market and when is it safe to be in and when should I be starting to take profits? You know, right now I'm in profit taking. I am taking profits on a lot of things because I do think the market is really hot, but those are just things that I've kind of learned. But to your point, you definitely want to tap into like the drivers in the news, but I look at those as catalysts, like things that they
Mhm.
use to take the market where they want to take it. But at the end of the day, the market is set up before the news. That's how I see it and how I've learned
Mm.
it. But it took a long
That's
time to
real.
get there because I had to study to be able to have the conviction to believe that based on what I've seen in the chart.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes
Yeah.
from studying and back testing, observing, watching how um, the news impacts the price and where it goes after that news comes out, like all of those little things. So
Yeah.
it's very intriguing. I highly recommend it for anybody if you have a just a curiosity around it. Because it's super amazing to see how it plays out, but it also is very intriguing. And it's cool to make money with it too, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, with you starting the YouTube, that other YouTube channel, um, where has, I guess, the progress gone with that, like as far as like building that up and giving the knowledge that you've learned to new followers, or maybe some of the same followers as well from your first page. Like how has that been, with that channel?
Yeah, so far it's going really well. The videos have been received well, and people seem to be excited and wanting to learn. I started a little like a group on Telegram where I can talk to people who are really interested in looking for a study partner. And I've tried to communicate to that channel like to look at me as a study buddy and not so much as a teacher, because I don't intend to be their
Mm,
teacher. My goal is to show them what I'm doing but then send them to where they can study and they can get the information to basically help them have a shortcut to achieving profitability, to have a shortcut to know, okay, this is what you need to learn. These are the things that I think are important to really making your trading journey be as straight to the goal as possible, as opposed to having to do like me and go through a lot to learn how to make money consistently. Like I had to go
mm,
through a lot and I had to lose a lot of money to get there, which most people typically do. That's usually a part of the process. But I
yeah,
wanted to be somebody who could help other people not have to like skip that part of the journey. Like I
right.
don't want you to have to lose a lot of money to find profitability. I want you to be able to go straight to the profitability and to get there, you know, be able to achieve those goals.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like it's a lot of. It seems like it's just a lot of, if you, because I'm sure there's so many different trading creatives on like YouTube, people who are teaching different things. And I'm sure some people are just, maybe steering folks into a wrong direction. There's probably a lot of folks that just are doing it to get a little bit of traction on their page and other things like that, but I think it's important what you said there is like, I'm not a teacher. I'm trying to be like your study buddy in terms of like how we get along through this and whatnot. So, I mean, I think that's super important point to put out there. To kind of bring it back home for a second, I always ask folks from back home, whether Fort Wayne, Angola, I always ask them just their thoughts on maybe like the market in terms of like creativity and entrepreneurship. In your case, back in Fort Wayne. I want to ask you because, of course, you're a creative person, having your YouTube channel, and then both YouTube channels, and of course, being a corporate person, like you said as well. Being tapped into, I'm sure, like a lot of different entrepreneurial stuff back in Fort Wayne too. What are your thoughts on, like, I guess the entrepreneurial and creative scene in Fort Wayne? Do you feel like it's growing? Do you feel like there's like um, it's taking shape in a different way that you haven't seen in a while, or is it still kind of a little subdued? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think in Fort Wayne, like I've definitely seen people start to tap into doing content, and I've seen some people come up and grow and have a lot of really tremendous success in different platforms. Like you've seen it on TikTok and Instagram and, you know, for some YouTube, etc. So there is a small community of creators in Fort Wayne, Indiana, most definitely. I
Hmm.
will say I haven't seen a lot of collaboration among those creators, so I haven't really seen a lot of that like you do see in some of the other larger cities. And I definitely think that that's a huge opportunity for sure to like get people to leverage each other to help,
Hmm.
grow. And I think sometimes, especially in the community that we belong to, people can get competitive real easy. Like it's
The
that
biggest
competitive
problem.
nature for some reason. And
Yeah.
I think people fail to see the fact that on social media, you can't really steal followers. You know what I mean? Like it just
Hmm.
doesn't work like that. Like if you work and you collaborate, which let's pick on Kai, right?
Hmm.
So he's somebody who has found a lot of success.
Hmm.
What does he always do? What is one thing he's always doing? He's always collaborating. He's
Hmm.
always bringing people on. That cross pollination, it's a win-win for both parties
Oh
because
yeah.
the people who didn't know him, who are coming from the person that they love, the content creator or the celebrity or whoever that is that he's bringing in his channel or page or whatever platform he's on at the time, they have followers that are now being introduced to him because of that collaboration. Same thing for him.
Hmm.
The people that follow him and follow his platform are now being introduced to that person that he brought on. So collaboration is like a win-win because audiences are getting a chance to mix and see and meet new creators or people that they didn't know beforehand. So it's a win-win. Like it never is a lose situation. But I think sometimes people become like short-sighted and they lose sight of that and they don't realize like in every industry, even music, when you see
Hmm.
artists do those collaborations, you ever see a collaboration and you're like, that is the weirdest collaboration. Like you got this
Yeah.
rapper and they collaborating with a
Pop
Grammy
singer.
Award artist, like crooner, you be like,
Yeah.
what? But
Hmm.
that's how you get introduced to audiences that probably would have never listened to that music. So I
Hmm.
think that that is a huge opportunity. I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity here in Fort Wayne to do that. I know for me, I got to do better at helping the smaller content creators because I think for me,
Hmm.
I'm probably at like if you have like that curve of your lifespan on social media. For me, I'm probably
Hmm.
at the end of mine. I think I'm starting to become just I'm growing out of it maybe a little bit. I still do it because I
Hmm.
want to show up for my community and I don't want them to think I
Hmm.
just disappeared, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely not looking to like grow or do anything like that. Like I just kind of try to continue to show up. But I think I could do a better job at helping others who are at the
Hmm.
beginning of their journey so that they can, get into their careers and have even more success and maybe hopefully some shortcuts from learning
Hmm.
from me because I've already kind of been through all of that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's something I want to do more of and help out more with in my community here in Fort Wayne to answer your question. But
Yeah.
definitely think there's a huge opportunity here for sure. A lot of hungry people doing really great things. Makes me
Hmm.
proud seeing it. And it's definitely really dope because when I first came up at times, I felt like I was the only person.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I completely I get that. Especially me being from Angola. Like Angola um does not have like there's people who are creative who definitely have done a lot of who do some stuff, but nobody out there that's really maybe trying to incentivize their creative, or maybe they're too afraid to or they don't know how to or whatever. Especially filmmakers. Like I was like the only one that's really done anything like that from where I'm from. But um goes into I want to go into this point then about the balance of work and life for you. Because you said something there that I think is important about just like, where you're kind of feel like you're at the end of that curve, maybe of like wanting to maybe continue to maybe push super far and strong, maybe with some of those, things with YouTube and stuff like that. Like, I want to ask, does that come from maybe just like as you've gotten older, now you have a family and stuff like that? Do you feel like you want to like spend and extend more time to that, like the family side of it, and being able to create experiences and moments and memories with your family, opposed to like wanting to like you're on that this like grind of like, I'm gonna go hard as shit for this YouTube and I'm gonna get 1 million subscribers, I'm gonna get all this, that, and the third, like to that usual grind that we all start out with when we're hungry for something like that. Do you feel like does that play a part in maybe wanting to, or you feeling like you're at that the end of that curve?
Yeah. Honestly, I think what it is I'm starting to become uncomfortable with putting myself out there. Like I'm just over the years, I used to be super comfortable with sharing personal things and
Mhm.
sharing my life and everything I'm doing. And the more and more I share, sometimes I put posts up, like I'll put a vlog up, and then after I'll be like, do I really want to put all that out there? Like, do they really need to know
Yeah,
all that? You know?
I
So I
understand
think it's just like
that.
the older I get, the more private I'm starting to feel. And it's making me feel a little more uncomfortable. And I think also the other thing too is like, I never really have done it for the money.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I've done it for the community and to try to do my part really. And now I feel like I have done my part. My videos are still there. People can still find them if they want to. But at the same time, it's hard to continue doing something when it's like at this point, it's like, what's the benefit to me, you know?
Hmm.
And I am so passionate about trading. That's kind of my passion right now. So I've been putting a lot of my energy in that and into learning and continuing to show up as a student for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my priority, my interest has been. I still have my channels and I do still post, but it has been from an interest perspective, it's definitely changed a lot. Like I've changed a lot since I first started. So I think it's just the sharing piece. And also I think one thing that does kind of scare me is AI and just knowing the more
Hmm.
you put out there of yourself, like you could be totally recreated by a computer. Like a bot could
Crazy.
become you. And
Yeah.
everything I put out there could be used to train a bot to basically recreate Kristyn. And that kind of
Crazy.
makes me a little uncomfortable too. So I just be
Yeah.
thinking about everything I have out there and I'm like, do I really want to keep all that out there?
That's true. I mean, I understand everything you just said, like in terms of, putting things out there. Like I know for me as a creator, I feel like when I was first starting my career, as a director, screenwriter, like I feel like there's stories that I wanted that not necessarily of myself, but just maybe certain thoughts or maybe certain inspirations or certain experiences that I've seen or generally had in my life that I wanted to put out there. And, for me, like there was one time in my lifetime, I'm not sure if you've known this, but I did put out an album called No Sweat Pimp in 2019. That was right before I moved to California. But that had a lot of my personal life in it. As someone who doesn't, I don't call myself a musician or rapper or a singer, none of that, but I can do all that kind of stuff. But I put a lot of my personal, life in that story, in the album, and I feel like with the movies that I'm creating, um, there's a lot of the movies I'm creating is kind of like that in a way too. At least like some of the stuff I'm writing now, like the next short film I put out is heavily inspired by like, kind of me and my fiance's relationship a little bit. Um, but in general though, yeah, like putting certain things out there, definitely it's like, yeah, do I really want to have these people know this, and like you get a little like weird about the criticism that you could get from that. So I understand that completely.
Yeah.
But how does the work life balance work for you? Like with
Yeah.
everything that you're doing, because you are a complete boss. I can already see it, I already know it. Like, how do you balance that and then having a family,
Like, yeah. I think it's one of those where just like making time and making sure when I do certain things, like for example, if I'm going to study for trading, I'll have an earmark a time that's what I'm going to do at that time. I have certain times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus an hour to editing or recording YouTube. Or if I say, okay, this week I'm going to do a vlog. Well, when I do my vlog, I'm going to be to the point, grab this quick little content, and then I put the camera away. So I think the biggest thing is just being intentional, planning. I try to have a thin plan for my day so I can like go, okay, this is the stuff I want to get done. And that includes if I say, okay, and tonight I'm going to watch a movie with my husband at this time, or I'm going to take the kids to the movies, or we're going to go to dinner over here or do that. Like I just try to be thoughtful around having a plan. And there's always going to be something that you have to sacrifice, to achieve your
Mhm.
goals. And when I was going hard with YouTube, there were things that I definitely sacrificed, but I have an amazing husband who has always been super supportive. And he was always comfortable with, he would pick up certain things so that I could sacrifice, you know? And he's been a very amazing support system. So it's like, okay, I try to take care of him in certain ways too. So it's like we just really look out and make sure that we both are able to achieve our goals, and we support each other from that perspective. So I know I wouldn't have been able to do these things if I didn't have somebody who was comfortable with it and was okay with me dedicating that time for that, knowing that we would spend this time over here afterwards. So yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to be thoughtful and creative about it because it is only 24 hours in a day at the end of the day. So
Mhm. No, 100%. So for you, I want to ask this question to you. What message would you tell your younger self? And I want you to think of it in like maybe in different tiers of your life. Like, what would you tell the younger person who was, going into school for the first time, figuring out what you wanted to do, as a career path? What would you tell the young person who, moved out to Fort Wayne, and was basically, starting to move their career and family there? What would you tell the young person that started this YouTube page and then started trading and just started a family? Like, what would that message be? Do you feel like that could be, a different perspective or just helpful for your younger self?
yeah. So that's a really great question. I think because I believe in the butterfly effect, I probably wouldn't tell myself to do anything majorly different in terms of the path that I took to get to where I am today. But the one thing I would tell myself, if I could go back and I could talk to future or past Kristyn, is I would tell her, do not allow imposter syndrome to impact you in any way, shape, or form. Do everything 100%. You know, you got to go hard and just go hard with no regrets. Like, just do not care. You cannot care. And you most definitely, if you ever feel like you have imposter syndrome, ignore it and just keep pushing. That's what I would tell myself. Because I think that is the one thing that has held me back in a variety of different areas of my life. And I wish I would have just ignored that imposter syndrome and showed up for myself a little bit earlier. You know, it took me a long
Mhm.
time in my life to get to the point where I have the kind of confidence to do what I want, now, and that took a long time. And I think a lot of people live in that fear of that same imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not good
Oh
enough
yeah.
or you're not worthy, who your opinion doesn't matter because you haven't proven yourself, all of those things. I think you just got to push past it. And I think the one thing that if I could throw one more thing on there, if it's okay,
Hmm.
is that they always say it's hard for people to start because it's embarrassing starting from the bottom or something along those lines. And
Hmm.
I definitely think that that is the case. I think people get online and they want to do something and they're like, oh my gosh, like when you first start, like when you start YouTube and you're doing videos and nobody's watching, you be like, oh my gosh, like 10 people watch, like I look like a
Yep.
fool. But it's like that's the part where I think people don't realize with anything you got to keep just showing up because that's how you learn. It's how you
Mhm.
perfect. It's how you prove yourself. And that work in the beginning when only 10 people showed up, if you really can find passion to show up and just remind yourself that you don't know, those 10 people might have needed what you had to say. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And that'd be like having an event and 10 people came. Like, that's a big deal. 10 people showed up. So
Yep.
I just would say
Yep.
you just gotta go. You gotta do it because you love it. And don't fall into the trap of letting imposter syndrome stop you from achieving your goals. That's what I would tell myself.
That's 100%. That's first of all, absolutely beautiful. That's great because imposter syndrome, I feel like I haven't spoken about that enough to other creators to, to kind of feel how that has affected them. Because I know how imposter syndrome has affected me in ways like, especially in the last maybe 2 years, I want to say it's been crazy for me. Because it's like there's certain things that like, that like I remember I was the first assistant director for this Nike photo shoot, and it was a crazy, like I've told that story on the pod and stuff like that before, but like just after finishing that, one, it was the biggest payday I've seen in my personal career. It was a great payday for me. It was working with Nike, which I've always wanted to work with Nike, and I was a first assistant director, so that was a pretty basically I'm running the entire set. Um, and yeah, that was like crazy imposter syndrome after that. Like it was a good shoot. Like we got the job done. You know, the people at Nike liked me and everything like that. And it was a great shoot, but I got so crazy imposter syndrome, like feeling like I don't know if I was supposed to do that, even though I did it. You know, it was just one of those things where you have to get through, you have to kind of just really talk your way out of that, you know, feeling like, you know, that you're not meant for something like that, you know. So you're absolutely right. Like, you know, just try to knock that out as much as possible. And of course, that's easier said than done. But no, that's 100%. One other question to kind of add on, because I thought about it, and I think I've seen this on maybe your last video that I watched on YouTube. Um, what do you think? How confident do you feel about yourself and just the work overall, whether it's trading, YouTube, you know, social media, everything that you encompass right now? How confident are you about that stuff moving forward into the future? The reason I asked that question is I think it was like maybe a comment I seen on the YouTube page, and there was a certain section of the video where you're like, oh, I'm, you know, getting to my 40s or in 40s, whatever, like that, and someone said, oh, you're not like you're still young. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't feel that way, da, 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 which I definitely agree. Beautiful young woman right here. Okay. And also it's like, you know, I think for me as someone who is getting close to my 30s and like, you know, I've known plenty of people who, you know, in my family and stuff like that who never got a chance to make it to 30, right? And it's just like my mom turned 70 this year. You know, it's just like seeing, you know, people flourish into that age. Like I can't wait to be into my 30s and into my 40s. Of course I can wait, but like at the same time, like I can't wait to just experience more life, experience the next evolution of who I'm supposed to be, who I'm going to be, you know, and I think that's super important. So how confident do you feel with all that moving forward into the future?
Yeah, I think that for me, I feel like I've evolved a lot as a person in general. Like I came from being just a young, I think timid is probably a good word, quiet girl. Like I definitely think that I have changed. I wasn't that opinionated. I'm very opinionated now. I pride myself on learning and doing research to support the opinions that I have. But I think that that just comes from like having confidence and just like I really think I've evolved into a very strong woman over the years. And I think because of that, I feel really confident about my future, but at the same time, I think I want my future to be one of like enjoying the finer things and being very comfortable and not working as hard as I have throughout the last couple of decades. Like I've been burning the midnight oil for a lot of
Mm,
years, like
yeah.
consistent. You know, when it comes to like even the market over these last few years, I study every single day. Every
Mhm.
single day. There has not been a day that has gone by that I haven't studied and literally studied, back tests, take notes, write in my journal. Like it's every single day. So when people see me share successes or wins, they're thinking like, "Oh, this just happened." Like, no, I've been studying for 4 years
Mhm.
every single day. I'm
Yeah.
tired. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
tired. You know, and same with YouTube. Like, it's been 7 years of putting videos out. Like when I edited that last vlog, that vlog took me a long time to edit. I was tired by the
Yeah.
time I got done. I said, "Damn, I was doing this every 3 times a week."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy, crazy. It's a lot.
yeah, I think I'm starting to get like tired a little bit, and I just kind
Mhm.
of want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. It's been a long journey to get to where I am today, and I definitely want to do a little bit more relaxing and a little more enjoying and spending time with my husband and pampering him and all those little things,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey nonetheless. But that I think that's kind of what I'm seeing for my future.
Absolutely. That's great. I love that. I think that's a great answer. I mean, we always, as you know, I'm the same for myself. Like as I get older, of course, I don't think I've hit the peak of my career yet. I've gotten the amazing blessing and opportunities to work with, people I never would have imagined. You know what I mean? People who I've literally dreamed of working with, like I've gotten a chance to do that, but at the same time, I haven't been able to, at this point in my career, I haven't been able to see the financial success I want to see, but also I haven't got a chance to make the stories that I want to create and put those at a higher level. So that's where I want to continue to take it. But at the same time, now that I'm engaged, I have a fiance, I'm living in LA, and I definitely want to
Congratulations.
thank you, and like having the mindset of like, creating a family in the future. I definitely want to have kids and be able to, give the crown to them, as I grow. But I'm ready for that, and I'm glad that for yourself, you already know what you're doing. You're already doing a lot more amazing stuff, and you're continuing that that progress. And I think it's important to always look positively to the future, and never be down on any of the stuff. Never face any regrets really from what you've done.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of great stuff. So Kristyn, thank you so much for being here on the podcast.
Yes, of
Uh,
course. I appreciate you for having
yeah,
me.
absolutely. I mean, like I said, you're one of those legacy. It's the term that I've coined it, like one of the legacy creators out there in Fort Wayne, and that means a lot to me because those are the people that I usually like. I'm not usually inspired by a whole lot of people. I mean, I'm inspired by people, but like not always, sometimes not necessarily like have I came across a lot of people. And I'm going to say maybe in the last, at least when I was like, in that time from graduating from college to then moving to California, there's only a few people that I really have met and have seen really go crazy with their work and really have a work ethic that I feel like, is what I aspire to and what I feel like I've also, done in my own life. And I feel like you're one of those people that have done it. So congratulations to you. Where can people, check your workout, social media, just, see all, your YouTube page, learn about trading? Please let us know what socials we can find you at.
Yeah, so everything is always Kristyn Alexis. So it's just my name, first name, middle name. So Kristyn, so with the Y and then Alexis. So Kristyn Alexis on all platforms.
Oh, all right, cool. I'm gonna make sure to tap into the trading page too. So I
Yeah,
can,
gotta get
because
you
like I
into the
said,
side.
yeah, because I definitely, because my older brother's kind of gotten into it because we have a cousin in Chicago that's been kind of really teaching him the ropes. So he's been trying to put me on game too a little bit. So I definitely want to tap in and kind of, like you said, study buddy. I'm figure out what you got going on over there. But thank you so much, Kristyn, for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's listening on whatever platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and of course all the YouTube viewers and stuff. Thank you so much, Kristyn. Really appreciate you
Of
for being
course,
here.
I appreciate you.
And, always staying excellent. So thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next podcast.